This is the Simpit. I'm your host, Sean Cole, and today we are here for our second stream of the day. If you missed it, we earlier today did an interview with Mitchie Hoyer, FSR top racer, world's fastest gamer, finalist qualifier, team principal of Avid Chronic Racing, and it was a very insightful, cool interview. Today we're here for something totally different. This is a show that I actually had scheduled for a stream 2 days ago, and due to a power outage, we were unable to do that show, which is really unfortunate because this is building up for the new season of Sim Racing System, running in the Porsche Carrera Cup RSR, Porsche Carrera RSR 3-liter in the Simpit Porsche Carrera Cup. And I wanted to give you guys a little opportunity to help me with the setup, and I could help you with the setup. And Carb, no, unfortunately right now I have this as a single player session. I could in the future set it up so we're doing a hosted session depending on the strength of my internet connection. So one other thing, I was trying to get my other computer here to see the chat, and for some reason it does not want to, and I'm trying to not log in with my main account so that I can just see the chat, not have it be the stream. Anyway, I'll work on that later for another day, another show. I was hoping to be able to get that working right now. Anyway, so the whole point here is the Porsche RSR, Carrera RSR, it was a tough switch from the Mazda MX-5 to this car. This car, it's not monster horsepower, but it's 330 horsepower, are very torquey. The car being a true Porsche, being rear engine, meaning the engine is all the way behind the rear axle, has some very interesting properties and driving dynamics to it that are unique to this car. It's one of the only rear engine cars that actually comes to mind. So, hey, Metzerliptic J, I saw you earlier. Metzerliptic J. I'm going to work on names of our regulars here. So, what I wanted to do here, let me jump out of game real quick, because I'm talking over my engine sound. And the whole point today is I do get a lot of requests from people for my old Attack the Track series, which I'm working on bringing back. It's just I have a lot going on, so what pieces do I allocate resources to? This is no quieter. And so what I also wanted to do was give you that opportunity to kind of see my driving line. Under these circumstances, I'll kind of be able to talk you through some turn-in points and brake markers. I also wanted to do a little work on the setup, and I don't claim to be a setup guru, nor do I claim to be an alien racer. I think I'm a good racer, and I think I'm okay with setups, but I do understand the principles. So I do know the types of things that we should make adjustments to cure ill effects of the car. But again, not a setup specialist, and that's why I've kind of kept this to setup for the beginners. And that gets back to why I wanted to have my other computer running so that I could actually see the chat while in the racing room in order to actually talk to you guys and get tips, because I know a lot of you guys know even more than I do about this stuff. So give me 1 second here. I honestly couldn't get this going the way I wanted to until I was literally live. There was really no way for me to log in with my other account, and strange enough, I didn't get the notification that I wanted about this show going live. So give me 1 more second. I'm very sorry about this. Let me just try to get over here so I can follow along with you guys. See, when I go to the Simpit YouTube channel, there it is. Now I'm in. Now I'll be able to see you guys while driving. I don't normally do this because if it's a racing video, I certainly can't look over. There we go. Okay, sorry about that delay, you guys. And when I do shows like this one in particular, I'm not nearly as concerned about the timing and everything being perfect, because to me, this is us all working together on setup, on driving, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, the Wolf part of the live streaming. So, all right, Natum, I agree. Let's get going. So, first things first, I do know a few things about the car setup already. So we did run a race yesterday. and I don't see, let's see, we're going to need to load that setup. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I am not a specialist at, hey, where's that setup? I thought I saved it yesterday. Oh, all right. Well, I remember the changes. So right now we're sitting on a default setup. I don't remember the fuel, and I guessed it perfectly for yesterday's race. So that's really a shame. I'm going to go ahead and pull the fuel down a little bit so we can get an estimate, and we'll adjust that later, knowing that people were running out of fuel. So we're going to err on the side of over. Plus, I want to double, triple check how many laps we accomplished yesterday. The gearing on the car from my... Let's talk about the car a little bit. The car is oversteery. It's a little problematic under braking, getting a little bit of brake lockup, and under the racing, I wasn't sure if it was front or rear to be 100%. But I knew that under trail braking, I was getting a lot of oversteer, which means I don't really want to go more rear brake bias. So I can try to go more front as long as that isn't the end that was locking up. That's one thing I want to test out today. The other was, again, it's an oversteery car at a few different moments, that under braking, trail braking. And the other is, if you aggressively turn for the corner, once that car starts turning, it just kind of keeps turning. And we had a few moments where I had to like do some quick twitch and get out of it in order to save the car, and one time where I couldn't and went around. So I'd like to kind of tame that behavior a little bit today. If you notice, a lot of that is rear end affiliated, and there are some very quick cures that we can handle. So starting off with just some of the basics, let's talk about the rear end of the car. And another thing, I'm going to go through a few. I'm going to be a little all over the place today. Hopefully you can keep up with me. The gearing was good. The tires, we did lower the tire pressure a couple of pounds, and I think that was pretty good. So we'll keep an eye on our tire temps, and we'll look at our tire temps to evaluate other things like car balance and camber. Fuel, we already took a little bit out. I'm not going to adjust anything on the toe or camber just yet. I'm going to leave that alone. Dampers are something that, in my opinion, you do at the end. A damper speeds up and slows down the transition, but it doesn't change how much your car moves, just the speed at which it does. It's a small adjustment compared to like springs. So we'll use that for more fine detail, and we might not even get to that. The drivetrain. Now this right here is the secret of the aliens. Differential is what they mean by diff, and diff power is how much, it's like how strongly it puts the power down and the amount of slippage on the and it's going to, the power is obviously going to affect you on corner exit. Diff coast is how much that rear end frees up when you get off the gas, and I'm not 100% sure. I think they have a great description here with Assetto Corsa. So when braking or simply coasting, the lock differential will try to keep both wheels at the same speed. This can change the handling of the car, meaning the tighter we make this, the more it's going to turn in. And this is the kind of thing the aliens use. So when they get off the gas, with just the slightest bit of input, it's already turning the car. Generic, we have our brake power. We're going to leave that 100%. Brake bias, we might get to that. Suspension, I think this is where we're going to make some serious adjustments to the car based on my complaints of the car. And then pit stop strategy we're not going to need because it's only a 20-minute race. We just have to judge our fuel correctly. So, 24 liters we're saying. Okay, let's go to that. We'll come back to suspension. We're going to go up to 24 liters, and then we'll get a fuel economy reading after we've done a couple laps. Okay, right now, I'm going to leave the ride height alone, and I'm going to leave the springs alone. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce my rear roll bar, and that helped a lot yesterday. And what I'm kind of doing right now is getting it exactly where we were yesterday, where we left off. And I believe that is exactly the car I ran in the race. And what I meant to do yesterday and didn't was save it. I thought for sure we did this yesterday after the race. Maybe I hit load after typing the word and then left and didn't verify. Okay, Now that car yesterday still had those same problems, and I've already reduced that sway in the rear quite a bit. So what I can do is try to bring the rear height down is one way of changing the weight distribution of the car, and it'll prevent it from kind of getting that ass up in the air a little bit. It'll tighten up the rear end essentially. The other thing is working on the front end. Again, I was getting so much oversteer from turn in that I think a little stiffer on the front sway bar is going to give this car better balance anyway. So right now we're just going to stick with this, and I want to go ahead and talk you through the lap a little bit because I want to kind of combine both, attack the track and set up at the same time, and then we'll make some adjustments. So again, if you're joining us, thank you. We're here just kind of setting up for tonight's race, trying to get a little more out of this Porsche. Oh, I'm still on paddle shifters today, so forgive me on that. Yesterday in the race, that was a topic of discussion. I'll try to turn this down a little bit again. I can adjust the volume, and it doesn't adjust your volume. I have to kind of remember that. What was happening to me in my first day testing of this car was it was so oversteery that the slightest mistake on a downshift was sending the car around. I'm having a hard enough time controlling the rear end of the car. The other thing, you do have to handle Spa a little differently in qualifying than you do in the race. I noticed it's a little more generous with the cuts. Your qualifying lap, you really need to keep all four wheels on, well, two wheels on the track. Excuse me. This is one of those corners that I was really fighting some oversteer on entry. It was under braking or overcommitting. I'm just going to kind of warm things up a little bit. I'm not super knowledgeable of all of the corner names here, so I kind of refer to them as this corner or that corner. You'll have to forgive me on that. Some tracks we all know, some tracks... I know this track really well, but I really only know Eau Rouge by name. But that won't matter for all intents and purposes, because what we're really trying to do is talk about and work on our driving line. Missed a lot of apexes. This is another spot right here. Getting the car slowed down without overslowing, getting it to actually turn on entry. It's one spot where it's a little loose on entry, but then it just, a little tight on entry, and then just gets all sorts of loose afterwards. This spot is sort of similar to the other spot, turn one, or the first corner after the long straight, and same sort of thing, but not quite as nasty. A little late. I'm being very gentle and very cautious right now, just getting myself and the car and the tires warmed up. That was a mistake of the shift that I kept doing in the race yesterday. It's third gear all the way through that corner. So I'm going to try to talk you through the lap a little bit. If I make a mistake, I'll tell you what I did wrong and hope that we can improve that as well as improve the setup. The other thing is I'm going to be a little mindful of the changes we've made and how the car is feeling. Alright, so functionally speaking, this is the end of the lap. About 2:45, around 2:46 for me. Missed the spot there. And this is the start line. Pit lane over here on the right. And coming into actually turn one. Heavy braking from fourth down to second gear, and you do got to keep this one tight. It's a shallow exit, not a lot of room, and it's slippery. And then it's full throttle down through the hill. The corner, I believe, is called Eau Rouge. But this section is one of the most famous parts. A little on the brake from fifth gear. Got to keep it tight. I missed that first turn in. That sent me wide there, and I get a track cut as a result. In qualifying, that's not going to fly. I didn't push the boundaries in race mode to find out how far you got. I don't think I did anything worse than that. We'll be up to a little faster without a mistake. Brakes right here in the heavy rubber build-up spot is what I'm using. Way too much braking, slowed it down too much. I like to get a nice, I call it a flat line into that first one. When I take a really wide approach, I find, is when I get that oversteer problem. Up to fourth, hard on the brakes for this 180-degree turn. It's easy to overdo it. It's off camber, it wants to send you wide, and it's a little loose on exit. Just a scrub of the brake to get some traction out of the front wheels. You can see I did too much both on the brake and the turn. Had to wiggle the wheel a lot more. I mean, it should be smooth turning, not erratic. Again, hard to slow it down enough. Hard to even get the shift right, even with paddles, without, and right there is really loose off the track. Giving you 10 times too much information right now. Up to fourth, heavy braking right at about the sign, just a touch before. You can see I stabbed the brake way too hard. You can see how much the car rotated as well, so we got to think about that as well for setup. That engine on the rear of the car causes a lot of interesting momentum. It's different. You know, you think most cars you drive are front engine, front wheel drive, front engine, rear wheel drive, or all wheel drive. Or mid-engine cars and all that, but very rarely do you drive something where all the weight of the car is actually behind all of the wheels, all of the axles. Full speed through here. I like to just back off. You don't want to set up too wide, it gets loose. You got to hit that apex. You don't, you're going to swing out wide. And that is not the fast way. Brake right on the line. There's a line right after the sign. That is a conservative brake. Oh, and then I blew it. And here's the end of the lap. You got to get good. This is a little straightaway. It's hard to get good traction here. And let's do it again. We're way off our pace by a good 5 seconds right now. And that's me talking. Right at this dip, I'm on the brakes right here, trying to not lock them up. You can hear that squeal, not at the turning, but when we are under braking. You got to avoid that squealing sound. The minute you hit that squeal, you're sliding. All the way up to full speed here, as fast as we can get. Fifth gear, just a scrub of the brake. We've got to get inside. I downshifted to fourth, so I get a little too wide. That was very close to the line. I went down to fourth gear to be able to get enough torque to kind of throw the car around without having to do too much wheel input. Seems to be the fast way, plus it's a little bit of a hill climb. On the brakes right here, preventing that. You see that kick out right there? That was some rear end lockup. I just get off the gas, let the car turn, and then I'm throttle steering right there, using the gas pedal to turn the car out of the corner. 180-degree turn. I don't have anything to say about this corner, except for if you take it slow and low, that is going to be safe. Just a scrub of the brake for traction. Let's get to apex. There we go. That allows us to get on the gas so much earlier. That outer bumper does not help you, so, and once you get out there, you got to be really careful about exactly that. And I had no choice but a full stab of the brake to prevent it from going all the way around. If I had tried to save that with gas and steering, I'd have been in that wall. Right on that line, right at the sign, there's a line on the ground I use for my visual marker. You're just being patient. Really easy to get too early on the gas here. You don't want to go wide there. Rev out third gear. Right when you get there is about when you need to be on the brakes. I'm late. Missing apexes. So if you were my driving coach, if you were in my ear right now, you'd be like, why can I fit another car between you and the apex? So we're going to work on that. This is, again, attack the track and setup. And see if we can make some improvements by the end. Can we beat a 146 is our goal. 246, I'm sorry. Still missed that apex, didn't I? Way wide. I went way too fast in. Missed the apex, and you can't get back on the gas at the same time. If you miss the apex, I'm sorry, you have to concede the corner, and everything is about recovering to get as much exit speed as possible, which is always our goal, but if you blow the beginning, don't fight it. Succumb, recover, and get back to speed. Right at the dip on the brakes. Hard to not get that little lock if you heard it. I like to get as close to the wall as I can, allowing me to get the car pivoted and back on the gas as fast as possible. full speed. We're going to I'll be a little quieter this time around. There we go. That's the line. And you gotta be careful because you hit that left curbing and it sends you right. And you gotta really hang on and fight it because it'll send you over that right barrier in no time. Right here for the brakes. No lockup. Oh, I went down to second. That's twice I've done that mistake. I like third gear through that whole section. Off the gas, late on that. We're okay. Not terrible. Right at that 100 markers whenever I'm on the brakes. Slow and low. Let's just be cautious and safe because we're not going to gain anything by making a bigger corner than it needs to be. Get that apex where, there we go. Downshift early, you'd better match that rev pretty well or you'll get a wheel hop even in paddle shifters. Gotta fight it all the way off that corner. It can get loose there. You gotta watch it though. Be very sensitive to your force feedback there. Came in hot into that corner, missed my braking zone a bit. It's about the exit though. Much better. Wasn't perfect, but better. I just get off the gas to set up that fast sweeper. No brake check at all. Full speed through this. Do not lift. And then you just gotta lift for this left-hander. A little early, let the car get its balance. And then you can really get on it good if you get a good line, and you'll know when you got it right. And then right to the white line, braking. Tighter you can get that first one, the better you'll set up this, which is critical because it's onto the straightaway. And that was a pretty decent lap right there. 2:45.71. We have a new goal. We're going to have to set a new goal now. I believe that's faster than anything I ran in the race yesterday. I was a little close for comfort on that wall pass there. I'm going to do one more lap and then we're going to talk about the car and look at our tire temps. Much better. There we go. I can tell you, adding a little front sway bar, a little stiffer in the front, seems to have toned the car down a little bit more. And I think we're getting somewhere there. Second gear again. I mean, just oh so conservative there, having had so much trouble during the race yesterday. But inside curbing, when we talk about apexes, is dangerous. It really pulls this car around a lot. So you got to be careful when you're going for that apex to not cream it. Same thing with the outer bumpers. You don't want to get stuck on them. They really change the steering of the car. You can see oh, there we go. That's that slippery. Oh, we disqualified that lap. In a race, I don't think that gets you a slowdown. I think in qualifying it nullifies the lap, and in practice it nullifies it as far as the time goes. But I don't think that was bad enough. Maybe what we'll do at the end is set up a race scenario and actually test the boundaries of some of those. You know, I'd want to know. That's for sure. We're on a good lap. I didn't let up just because of that off it. Coming up on a good time to stop because I can feel the sweat pouring. 1:55:47, so that was faster. All right. Now let's talk about the car. I don't know if you noticed, but it seemed a lot more stable. If you watched yesterday's race, it was a whole lot twitchier than that. So that means we've definitely made an improvement. Now, let's also not underestimate, and this is, I think, something that, especially on the beginner level, turn this down. On the beginner level, I'm sweating. I'm going to have to take a break and get myself a sweat cloth. But on the beginner level, don't forget one thing that's going on. You know, the aliens, the best of the best, these guys go out and they drive perfectly. They drive the same lap every time. And it makes it so easy to know what's the difference between the driver and the car. In the case of us amateur level drivers, we'll say, we are constantly getting better as a driver. We are constantly learning the behavior of the car and hiding those ill effects, because that's my job. I mean, you know, I don't want to crash, which means I want to prevent the car from getting sketchy. So as I'm making changes, it's a little harder because I am masking it as a driver. And that's something you got to kind of remember and think about when you're working on your own setup. It's like, well, was it really the setup that it made it better? Or is it that I just finally got my braking control under order? So, and that's something we'll be working with as well. Right now what I want to do real quickly, though, is look at our tires and the temps. And I have these in the wrong thing for me, but it doesn't matter. Everything's relative, really. I should change this all to American. Anyway, but looking at it, you can see our cold pressure was 23 in the left front, hot 22. That seems somewhat impossible to me. So something's got to be not right there. Any tips on that? Because to me, that looks pretty crazy. So let me check in with you guys too. Just say hello. I'm thrilled that you guys are here doing this with me. And again, the whole point of today was to really combine and attack the track. Now, in a perfect world of doing an attack the track, I'll go run a perfect line or combine multiple laps to give you a shot of a perfect line and focus on it that way. In today's version, you're seeing more of the dealing with the track version of an attack the track. Yes, I'm going to point out as many brake marks, gearing, important things going on with it. And the other thing that we should probably talk about at Spa is what the important or most critical corners are to achieve good lap times, which was another aspect of attack the track. So that's something else that I'll move on to when we get back on the track again. Right now, the other thing I want to look at is the difference between my inside and outside temperatures and my inflation by, just how bulged or flattened my tires are. And you can see all the way around, I'm a little underinflated on my right front, but just by 2 pounds. No, I'm sorry, it's between 70 and 72. I'm sorry, forgive me. And I look pretty good. I'm sorry. So I look pretty good on inflation level, both on the front, as far as just getting good balance with that inside-outside temperature. My camber, I'm going to have to switch this to American, unless someone wants to do a quick conversion for me. But the difference between 69 and 72 is 3 degrees. You know what? The beauties of live. All right, we're not gonna do that. Okay. Camber looks pretty good though. I don't have a complaint there. On the rear end, same thing. We look pretty good on our inflation. And the other thing I like to look at is the basic relationship between the front and rear. And you can see right now, my rear tires are consistently hotter than my front tires. And that is 100% because of the rear engine car. In a lot of cars, it's actually hard to do that because on a road course, we tend to wear our fronts so hard. So that means that I need my front end to heat up a little bit more. But at the same time, I can only get so much more grip before I'm just going to bring back some of those ill effects. So one thing I can do in this scenario is we didn't adjust the ride height at all, and we didn't adjust the spring rate. But one of my complaints was it really felt like that rear end was coming up a lot, and that front end was over squatting on entry. The difference between springs and dampers. Springs are what hold the weight up in the air. And, if it's a 20-pound spring, if I put 20 pounds, it will compress the spring. That is the function of how a spring works. If I put 19 pounds, it's going to go that far. There is nothing that affects how far it's going to compress based on the weight that it's supposed to hold. That's just fact. However, dampers or shocks, they actually don't hold the car up whatsoever. So when you think of a spring and a shock together, the spring is what holds the car up in the air. The shock is what speeds up the transition of weight. So, in my car scenario, I'm using my hands here. Here's my front end of the car, here's the rear end of the car. And we hit the brakes, and the rear end's going to come up. Well, however much we get grip is going to create a certain amount of weight transfer, and that's a fixed amount no, it's not a fixed amount, but it's a set amount of weight based on our car setup and our brake pressure. The springs are going to compress no matter what to the level that they're supposed to compress. But if you want to slow down how fast it compresses, you can increase the shock. Let's go to the wording they use in Assetto Corsa under dampers. So bump is the compression, rebound is the extension. So if you want to slow down how fast the nose dips, there are two ways to do it. I can increase the bump, increase the shock pressure to slow down the weight of transfer, or I can increase the rebound, how strong it is pulling against, so resisting that extension action of the shock function. And that's why I get back to when we're talking about suspension and what to do. The wheel rate or the spring is going to affect how much it can hold. How much will that front end hold under braking? When I jam on the brakes, how much is it going to dip? And so anyway, getting back to the point, over rotation of this car, not getting enough out of the front, I actually think we can increase our front spring rate slightly. I'm just going to do 5 pounds and probably just reduce the amount that it's transferring. And then to go along with that, now I could drop the rear end, and that would, theoretically let the rear end start at a lower point. But that's not as strong an action as preventing its initial movement. So, if you can't break 3 minutes on this track, well, maybe you need to do a little work on your setup. And, again, follow the racing line that we're doing. It's really critical to get that car slowed down enough so that you can get back on the gas again. So, 2 live streams, I'm not going to get any work done. And Coulter, I'm back to your comment there. I have another one coming because we'll live stream tonight's race. But I know today's a totally different show. But it was something I was going to do, so I thought maybe you guys would enjoy doing it along with me. That corner was awful. He cheated the entry. Yes, I'm making plenty of mistakes, Paul. We're going to work on that as well. If you can't stop oversteering on corner entry, everything else is a waste. 20 seconds, cheating, track limits allowed. Yeah, you use what the rules allow. That's racing. I will say that. If they put a cone somewhere and that's the limit, you take it to the limit. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and, next time I do this, I'm going to try to host a room. So I'll limit the amount of people. HCARB 245-853, so I think we've done better than yesterday now. Oscar, glad you're enjoying the show. I wasn't sure if this would be entertaining or not, so this is sort of another test for me to find out if this is something you guys would enjoy. I'm having a blast with this car and track combination, by the way, so yeah, I see that comment. Coming from the Mazda, I love the Mazda MX-5, but this car is a lot more fun to drive for me. And I will go to the H pattern at some point when I get a little more control of the car. El Bucho says it's due some of the high-speed understeers due to overdriving the car and not getting my braking done on corner entry. And I completely agree with you there. I am way too erratic on the wheel, and I'm really stabbing the brake and not finding that perfect threshold braking point. And so for those of you out there who are saying you're braking or having trouble with braking 3-minute marks, you know, racing, it's really simple if you break it down to one corner. It's just multiplying it out by 3 miles or by, 12 corners or whatever you're doing. You want to slow the car down in as much efficiency as you can under straight line braking, but you don't want to just coast through the corner because you'd be wasting all of that energy having had to brake too early. So in a perfect world, I'm braking in a straight line, and then I'm starting to ease off the braking as I start to add wheel input. Turning for the corner for the apex. Well, it's a clear point. I should have this reduction of speed as I enter the corner, and I should be turning for apex. And to be honest with you, in a perfect world, at apex, I should now be off the brake. I should have that wheel to the optimal steering point, and everything from this moment on should be exiting the corner. And that's why we'll talk about early apex, middle apex, late apex. Because regardless of which scenario you're talking about, at the moment of apex is when you're going to be at your highest steering rate, and in the moment that you have finished all of your trail braking, and now everything switches to rolling out of the corner and applying the gas. And if you didn't make apex and you're applying the gas, which is something I have a tendency to do, you're going to swing wide. You didn't make apex. You're not on the proper driving line, and adding the gas at that same moment will not get the same results. And again, continuing with out of the corner, I should be applying the gas. And a lot of people make a comment that your gas pedal should be somewhat tied to your steering wheel. So it's like you can imagine having a string right here on the bottom of the wheel. And as you apply, so here I am mid-corner, and I'm at apex, and I'm going to start applying throttle. That in theory, as I'm applying throttle, that wheel should be very smoothly and linear. It should be one movement in a perfect world. A perfect corner is this. As El Bucho mentioned, here's Sean's corner. This. Okay? And I'm not denying that, by the way. That is why we're here today. So thank you for that observation. I'm going to try to smooth out just a little bit as well. So I appreciate all of your comments, good and bad, as long as they're constructive. You can tear me apart as long as it's constructive, because whether I get it or someone in the chat room gets it, then we've served our purpose here today. Open my tire app. Okay, we can do that. And again, I am open for every suggestion that you guys can throw at me. So what he suggested was opening the tire app so we can watch the tires as we go. Thank you very much for that, by the way. You know what? Gimarillo said it often watching others leads to getting jealous and being inspired to go drive, which is awesome. In the future, I'm going to try to make this open so a handful of people can join as well. Little changes make a big difference. Liptic J. I've said it 10 times today, but it's too far for me to read. That is something to really remember. When you make changes in setup, whether you're good or bad, you don't go to the spring and just take 1,000 pounds out of it. You want to make incremental changes, and you want to go back out on track and see if you can sense and feel the difference. And if you can't see or sense or feel the difference, then you need to come back in the pits and look at your tire temps. And what I'm not doing right now, but if I was taking this just one step more seriously, I would have a notepad here, and I'd be taking notes on all of the critical things, like what were my tire pressures, temperatures, and the inside, outside, middle temperatures. Because when I make a camber change, I want to see the difference between the laps before and after that camber change. That's on the crew chief side. On the driver's side, I need to know, did adding that negative, I'm saying when I say add camber, I'm literally meaning adding negative camber, tilting, getting more grip usually in a car, but putting more wear on the tires. Like turning tires into ice skates is what you're doing, is the way I think of it. So anyway, Small changes go a long way, and it's best to know if what you're doing is curing the problem you're trying, or you might have made a completely unnecessary change to the car. Metrolyptic J, I hope I explained springs and shocks. I just saw your comment. I hope I explained it fairly well. That's what I bring to the table more than the ability to set up a car, by the way, is maybe being able to explain how these things actually work together. Set up Foo. I highly suggest making a car having an understeery characteristic. Please try -2.5 front, -3.5 rear. That seems very excessive rear negative camber to me. And you're going with very heavy ARBs, which I'm willing to try because it seems like this car has a lot of body roll as well. That's part of the problem with the throwing it around, I think, can be cured by stiffening up the whole car. So thank you very much. We're going to come back to that in a minute. This is Sai. Yeah. Hey, Sai, how you doing? Yeah, how hard I brake. Jurgen says, I am really stabbing the brake. Elon Musk, hey, look at that. Welcome to the town. Maybe next season we'll do electric cars. Yeah, I'm trying to teach the principles not only of what things do, because I'm not an engineer, and I said that at the very beginning. I'm not an engineer, and I'm not even trying to be one, but I think I can do a good job of explaining what things do and the kind of things to look at and why. If I was great at setup, I'd probably be racing at a higher level as well. Setup will go a long way. Throttle steering I'm not going to do until after Apex. I'm having a little problem getting on too quickly. Alright, I'm trying to catch up with you guys so we can get on track. I'm going to also walk away for 2 seconds and get a... yeah, but we disagree with his assessment of what is wrong. Alright, Paul, I might have missed where you explained that. That's the problem with you going backward on chat. Okay. Metrolyptic J is saying turn brake pressure down. Yeah, we're all gonna have differing things, but I'm trying to kind of work between the lines and do everything. All right, you guys are going way faster than I can keep up. I do like that one idea. So we're going to go back to so let's go back to our swing bars. We're running 23,800. He was saying like 36,12, I think it was. If you can repeat that. I like that idea instead of just making the adjustment. I'm keeping a similar split, it looks like, but really stiffening it up so the car doesn't have nearly as much body roll. So let's talk sway bars. I'm giving you guys all the terminology I possibly can. When you work on the front of the car, it's the front of the car, and obviously that's going to be more affecting corner entry, we'll say. And when you work on the rear end of the car, it does only affect the rear end of the car and more on corner exit. But there is a correlation and a balance between the two. So you can't just think of it as front to back, and you can't just think of it as left to right. It's doing this pendulum thing all the way around. That's what a car is doing on its suspension, essentially. So if I stiffen up the sway bar in the front, I am really changing how much the sway bar connects the two front wheels. So as this one pushes up, it kind of pushes against this one and keeps them tied together. The looser I make the sway bar, the more they can move independently. That's just on the front. But then you also have one on the rear doing the same thing to the rear end. And then, again, the balance between how freed up or tight each end is a completely other characteristic and balance of the car's overall handling. So when we talk about small adjustments, when we talk about varying opinions on what to do, there's so many ways to even cure the same problem. When you look at a good setup sheet, go one step beyond this show for sure. There are a lot of setup guides. When you look at a setup guide, or even when you hover over the things, it tells you what it does, and it usually tells you what it does on the high and low. And if you were to look at, I need to cure oversteer on entry, you're going to find a whole bunch of things to do to the car. Some of them based on the front end, some of them based on the rear end, and various different methods of achieving the same goal, or different ways to skin the cat, so to speak. And you have to be very sensitive to the more you can break down the condition, so is going to help you identify which of that solution list is the path to actually go down. So, all right, I made some changes. Let's go out. All right, I agree. I'm still sweaty. But let's go ahead and do this. Increase my volume a little bit. I'm going to try to smooth things out this time around. We didn't adjust brake pressure. One thing I'll say also is on your out lap, don't make a mess of it. Get your head in the game. I tend to get a little too lax on an out lap sometimes and make stupid mistakes that actually put me back in the pits and have me doing another out lap. I'm being very sensitive to brake lock-up and try to prevent it with my left foot. Try to reduce the erratic input on the steering wheel as well. Oh, see, that's what I'm talking about. Right there. You damaged the car. What did I just say? Oh, what did I just say? Sometimes I'm too casual on my out lap. You know what? I'm not gonna take a chance. I saw it go red and then it went yellow. I think I took damage. I'm not gonna do that. We're getting sweaty for me. I'm a talkative fella. Yeah, but it totally distracts the hell out of me. That's what I was talking about right there. If you have a little wheel input coming off and hitting those big super bumpers, curves, it will send you around. Oh, cold tires. Making a mess of things here. Believe it or not, even though I was silent, I was sitting there thinking like 18 things in my mind about car setup, need to focus as a driver. Also, we've made some changes to the car, so I'm going to have to be sensitive to that. I don't think I'm as understeery on exit, even though, I don't think I'm as oversteery on exit. Even though I made that one mistake, it did go around a downshift way too early there, sorry. Too early? Definitely see more understeer on exit. If you're in America, when I say understeer, I mean push. Or tight. And generally speaking, tight is safe. You go off corners, but it's a stable overly stable car, really. Hardest corners on the track, I tell you. And in yesterday's race, I saw a lot of guys go spinning off there. Job of being smoother. Oh, really blew that. Not a bad lap. That could have been a way better lap. A couple of big mistakes. Car feels more stable. Oh, we have a guest. We have a guest in the studio. Again, the changes we've made to the car seem to have really improved things. The car is more stable and more drivable, or less sketchy, I should say. There I go back to mistakes because I'm talking. Twice now I steamrolled that apex. Literally. Stay out of the corner. That's the sticky curb. off the pace this lap, but I'm going to fault the driver. Setup actually feels pretty good. So much more stable. Again, we had a sketchy car. Yesterday's race is actually kind of scary for me, I have to admit. Just overtaken a little there. How was that slow? I felt much faster than that through it. Got a better exit, apparently. Careful that curving. It's not helping. There we go. I ain't kidding, that corner actually caught me off guard. You're gonna race with us. You know what the trick to that corner is? Don't underestimate it. Looks like you have so much room to work with, and you do. But it is so slow and so slippery on the outside that don't chance it. It's not worth it. Lots of places you can take risks here, but it won't come back to bite you in the ass. Oh, on the gas just a moment too early. I hit that curbing and it put a wiggle on the freaking car. What a blow it that was, you guys. Oh, right there with our best though. Our best time lap. We did better on one that we got to cut. We got to cut, so we wouldn't have recorded that one either. Okay. We've actually achieved something already. I think a combination, again, this gets back to something I was just alluding to a moment ago, which is, as the driver, you start to make changes in what you're doing, and you might completely hide ill effects of the car. And so in that case, excuse me, I was having such massive over rotation problems, and a lot of it was me stabbing the brake and really throwing the car into the corners. So that kind of helped things as well. And MC's talking about tire pressures being too low. Okay, we'll make that adjustment. Oliver, I agree with you, and I disagree with you. So I'm gonna. This is a topic that keeps coming back. I will personally, between you and me, take it on the chin, in that I agree. This is a car that should be, and if you want the most. But I can make a million arguments for why H pattern isn't necessary, and I'm not trying to Jedi mind trick the world into H pattern shifters. So while I agree with you, I also kind of disagree with you. And my arguments are, I don't have anything giving me force feedback on my shifter, which means if I miss shift, it's not going to do anything realistic whatsoever. So unlike my wheel, which is realistic, unlike my pedals that are realistic. So it is just for the sensation of the H pattern. But for the purposes of this show and everything I've been doing, by the next race, I am going to be on the H shifter. I just was having so much problem with oversteer on entry that downshifting poorly was making that 10 times worse. So I thought I'm going to get used to the car, and then I'm going to bring back the H pattern. So forgive me, excuse me, and at the same time, some people don't need to have a shifter. So I don't like the idea that people try to intimidate the world into thinking you need this. You don't need a direct drive wheel. You don't need a shifter. I did that interview with Mitchie. He does not use a shifter, and he does not use a direct drive wheel. He uses a G25. So, and thank you for the compliments on that interview. That was really fun. He's a great guy. Doing heel toe. Yeah, heel toe. Now, when I did my testing with the H pattern on this in the Mazda, I was able to get away with blipping on downshifts with no clutch, and I was using the clutch for upshifts. In the case of this car, it did not like just blipping the downshifts, and I was tearing the gearbox up really badly. So I then went to heel toe, which, if you think I was stabbing the brake badly now, imagine me using my right foot when I've been using my left foot for so long. So, again, give me a little time. I'm going to make that change. I'd like to show it. I want to let people see this is, because I agree with you, that is how the car should be driven. But if you don't have an H pattern or you're not good at it, whatever is fastest for you is the way you should drive a sim car. All right, we're going to take a little tire. We're going to add a little tire pressure, because we saw that before, that we are potentially just a little bit low. I like what we did with the ARBs, by the way, the roll bars, so thank you very much on that. Somebody's yelling. Caps Lock Albucho, you're yelling. Okay, and I'm fine with my current resolution. I haven't moved to 4K myself. Okay. I want to look at tire temps real quick. I want to look at and point out a few things when we look at them. Number one, you can see we are a little underinflated with our inside being very close, our outside edge being very close to our middle temperatures. And that seems to be consistent all the way around. So let's go back up to 24. We started with 25, dropped to 23, and that might have been a little too little. I do feel like the brakes are just still a little too strong. I'd like to be able to jump on the brake harder with confidence. Yes, I can press softer, but I want to be able to press to what I feel is a good braking pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce the braking pressure just a little bit. I'm only going to bring it down 5 degrees or percent for right now for me. We didn't do any changes to the springs, just the ARBs, and I was being gentler on the braking. In that scenario, I didn't feel like it was dipping the nose quite a bit as badly. That was me. So I'm not going to make any big changes right there. Use the pedals. Gimrel, watch Mickey use the pedals and his reasons. You mean in terms of he sim races with a shifter, and he shows his pedals and talks about those reasons? Please clarify. Dave Carr, hey, I know you. How you doing, Dave? Welcome to the stream. We're just having some fun and not taking things too seriously today. Today is 24 is way too low. Really? All right. I'm going to take your word for it. I am all ears. And to me, that was all right, 26. Anyone? For those just joining the stream, just kind of catch you up in speed. This is a show I kind of wanted to do a couple of days ago, and then I had a blackout. I actually scheduled this show, had a blackout, couldn't do the show, and then the racing series started. I wanted to do this before season 1, race 1. And it was based on two things. One, I get a lot of emails that people ask me to bring back Attack the Track. And I'm going to try to do that with a very specific driving line, braking zone, all that kind of stuff, and not necessarily built around my driving style, more built on what one should do. And that's something I'm trying to do. I just have a lot of things going on with the show that I'm trying to move and do. So what do I get to? I don't have a lot of manpowers versus the amount of things I want to do. And then the other was a lot of people have been asking me for setup tips. And I'm going to confess once again that I know the terminology very well. I know the various components, what they do and how they interact with the car. What I don't know is how you put combinations together and make those overall changes that as a package collectively work for a good setup. And there's a big difference between knowing what a spring does, knowing what a shock does, knowing what brake pressure is, and being able to put it together. And it's even more of a job to be the driver and the crew chief and then put all that together to come up with a great setup. So that's why, for me, I have to limit any setup shop I do to a beginner level, because I can teach you terminology, I can teach you some of the basics to look for, but I'm looking for guys from you even. I don't mean it like that, but that's the great thing about doing the live shows. What I mean is that getting input from guys who know even more than I do about setup, or just have suggestions based on things like, hey Sean, you're driving erratically, tone it down a notch. And dance arounds 26 and 27 depending on ambient. Okay. And the other thing what I need to do is switch this over to Fahrenheit, because I am kind of driving blind in the world of Celsius temperatures. And I have all my mileage, well, this has been on, I believe I have all my mileage correct on my overlay screens. Okay, so I started a TV tray. That's what I have right here. Copilot is a TV tray, and a Logitech G27, which again, I try to not encourage people. Like, that is enough. You know, Mitchie's on a single screen. And Oliver's saying, my audio is not good adjusted. The game is too loud. You are bad to understand. Is it blown out? Am I overdone, or it's just a crap microphone? This used to be a great microphone, but it's an old pair of headphones at this point. I'm going to go ahead and make an adjustment to the game, though. Thank you for that. I appreciate it very much. We'll try this, and you guys tell me if it's too loud when we go out and do another session. So thank you for your input there. And pro driver for Aston Martin. He shares videos. I say watch them. Yeah, I'll give him. I'll check them out for sure. You know, again, in the simulator, things are a little different than in real life. Like, for example, one reason I do want to use the H pattern, why I do want to heel toe, even though I have some issues with the way it's all done, is that it's still good practice. So if you are going to be doing any real life driving, so later in the season, I might have an opportunity to get in a Lemon's car. Nothing that wonderful, don't worry about it. Actually, there's some pictures. I showed a picture of me, and I got to drive the Lotus once. We're working on a truck that we might get out to the track. And all of those cars require heel toe downshifting if you want to be fast. Not all of our drivers do that. Some of the guys just straight line brake like you would in a street car. They're just good drivers and they get it around well. But it is good to get in the practice of going through the motions. You can't hear the sim at all now. All right, well, let me make that adjustment. I can actually let me go one step further. What I can do, this is the definitive way. So there's the car at full revs, and there's me talking as though I'm driving. So this is actually the best we're going to do for testing our mix. So yeah, and yeah, Dave Carr, good point. And this is something that I'm very much trying to do right now, is move into other sims. I've been very heavy on iRacing. You know, I love iRacing, and you know, they don't pay me to say that. But I really do love all the sims. They all have really great qualities, and there are things that Assetto Corsa does so much better than iRacing, and there are things that Assetto Corsa does not as good as iRacing, and our factory get the same thing. But each sim just has this whole next level stuff and understanding little idiosyncrasies. You know, in iRacing you get in, and I'll guarantee you every car you get in has overinflated tires by default. And if you do iRacing enough, you'll immediately know that's the way it is. Okay, a little higher on the game audio is the request. And fortunately, we're getting close to where, as long as we don't change cars, this mix for Assetto Corsa should work forever once we get it right. And somebody said it was perfect just the way it is. So, there you go. Alright, what changes do we make to the car? We made some air pressure changes. We also, let's double check. Were we confirmed that 24 was the way to go on fuel? 24 liters? I sure seem to be in metric. Where are you guys from? Are most of our guys here in Europe or in USA? And I'll make a decision to stick with one or the other. So right now I'm running 24 liters. It estimates 8 laps. I think that's adequate. It says it'll do 59 minutes. That is not true. So there is definitely a glitch in their fuel economy there. Alignment, we still haven't done anything. I'm running very low camber right now. I didn't, low negative camber, I should say. I did not want to go heavy on that because I was fighting a lot of oversteer. But we might have cured the oversteer. And again, you want to be the fastest guy in the world, you're going to have a little bit of oversteer in your car. Even Mitchie says that he likes more understeer compared to those guys. But I'll bet you if I drove his car, I'd say he has a lot of oversteer. That's just a hunch I have. Maybe maybe he drives understeer compared to others he knows. But I'm going to guess he's pretty aggressive there. The mental side of racing from Nikki Them. Awesome. That's something I love, a topic in its own, the mental aspects of racing. We'll do a test for Road America in a few weeks. We're going to that track. That's our one North American track this season. I prefer oversteer also. They're faster, but if you're not ready for it, they're much more dangerous, for sure. Absolutely. What I'm going to go ahead and do is increase our camber, though. Somebody suggested 2.5, 3.5. I'm just going to bring it up 2 clicks on both sides, or I should say down, because I'm adding negative camber, which is theoretically going to get you more grip in the car, but can come at the price of more tire wear. That's one downside of it. And sometimes there's a point of no return, so where you start getting more grip and then you get fall off, and all you've done is given yourself less tire to work with on the ground. As we're tilting them in, again, I define it as turning. Here's my tire, it's flat, and as I put it on an edge, I'm turning it into an ice skate. There is nothing on earth for a human to turn sharper on than an ice skate, but at the same time, when you go beyond the limits of an ice skate, well, you break your ankle or you fall. So there you go. And you guys have some conversation about components. That's awesome. I'm going to do another lap. So what we did was we increased our tire pressure and we added a little negative camber all the way around. And other than that, I was happy. That car had the potential of being quite a bit quicker than what I ran in the race yesterday, or what we ran in our first earlier session. So we are making improvements. We're not changing things. The car was not terrible before. It was just a little crazy. So if I could have controlled it, I could have done just as good a lap time. I don't think we've made changes that are going to get us necessarily a faster car just yet, but we've made it so much more stable, which means eventually it's going to get faster just on that alone, if that makes sense. I don't know if that adds up. That might have been some BS right there. You'll have to judge for yourself. Oh, wide. It's okay. It's our outlap, but remember what we said last time. We're going to try to do a little more concentration even on our outlap. Long way around at Spa. Be a real shame to dump it halfway, waste 2 minutes just getting to there to do another 2 minutes to get to that same point. Here we go. right there. I am right at the beginning of that heavy, heavy buildup of rubber on the road is where I'm on the brakes. I was a little late. You just kind of milk it through that section, focusing on exit and setting this corner up, because this is the important corner. A lot of time can be made off of that corner and setting up this corner here. This long right-hander, you got to be careful. It really wants to throw you out wide. It's off camber. You got a lot of room to work with. You shouldn't have a problem there. There's plenty of room to work with. Little scrub of the brake, just because it's downhill, get a little weight transfer to the front. Slow the car down just a touch to get some grip. And this is the corner that I myself am still just far from getting it right. What I would recommend is something closer to than what I've been doing earlier. Taking a conservative entry. Once you're confident, you can get a lot of mid-corner. Oh, late on the brake, sorry. That's what I'm talking about. Those outer painted sections are so slippery. Sorry about that, but at least we don't have to reset. That was an unnecessary shift. Forgive me. Like, takes me a lap just to get my head into the mode of driving after sitting in the shop looking at all the components and talking. And I come out and I'm like in a weird glaze of sorts. Alright, let's get our serious face on. Lunged too hard into that corner, screwed it up. You can see how little time I have on Assetto. I think that was like an achievement unlocked right there that just flashed, if you guys saw it. Might not have been. I didn't really read it. Ah, missed that apex, and that's the critical one. You're just playing catch up if you miss that right. It's a... You know, you can still get a good run on it, but again, corners are critical. We also decreased our brake pressure 5%. A little too early on the gas. Ah, way too conservative. But, see, that's what I'm talking about. Look at how much we can make it up on the exit versus what we've done in the past. So your drive, you've got to be overly cautious going in, because it leads to a mistake. So when we go back to the attack the track mentality of this show, my advice in that show would be to sacrifice the entry of that section to make it all back. Ah, too early on the gas, son of a you-know-what. Obviously, that's a very important corner. Look at how fast we get. And even here where we get off and we're still carrying that speed from that corner. So you really just gotta hit that one. Oh, look out, world. 244.8. That tire pressure is right on. I don't know if it's right on, but the tire pressure is making a huge difference. The car is actually cornering better. We are sloppy with those underinflated tires. Just a touch too early. Oh, too early there for sure. Crap. Again, let's be really conservative here on entry. The minute I hit that curb, I had to be very careful about how hard I was going to press that gas pedal. We kept it together, though. Whoa, we're carrying so much speed out of that now that it changed the braking zone for that corner for me. Missed it. Not by a lot, but did. You know what else helped is that brake pressure reduction. 244.03. Woo! All right. All right. My goal was 244, and we almost broke into 243s there. And you think about the difference between what we were running in the race yesterday and that, and it's carried over into two different aspects. Number one, the car is much more controllable. So if you are running this series with us and you're running the default setup, I can tell you, if you follow the changes that we've made, you are going to see a vast improvement in the car. And it's going to drive a little tighter. You know, you got to drive the car a little more, but it's going to also be more stable at the same time. And the car was honestly a nightmare. And if you watch the replay of the race, I dropped all the way back to 21st after that first lap incident, and half the positions I picked up were cars just spinning off because it is difficult. Well, you've seen it from my driving here as well. So, Wolf, I'm all over the place. Thank you. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm going to scroll back and see what you mean specifically, or do you just mean my driving line in general? Yeah, SRS, Oliver saying 60 people registered for the Escort Cup. That's awesome. Talking sim equipment up there. Okay. Yeah, Hazard, I'm very happy with that lap time. Things are progressing way better than yesterday. You guys are talking about the price of sim racing equipment. I'll come back. I need to cool down, so I'm gonna come back. And yeah, 238. I can see that. I mean, 5 seconds with the amount of mistakes I'm making and even more setup refinement. I can see that being done quite well. So yeah, and it looks like we might be upward of the front of the pack instead of the mid pack now. So that's good. Am I watching Darlington Throwback? I'm not sure. I have a lot of work to do. I might not be able to watch TV this weekend. I have a lot going on because I'm leaving town next week. So, hardware. My take on hardware and the pricing. A couple of things. Number one, if this is your hobby, chances are you're putting hundreds of hours a week into it. You know, well, maybe not hundreds of hours a month into it. So, even if you take some of the most expensive hardware and divide that by the hours of enjoyment even in a single month, you've probably justified the cost, let alone how long will that piece of hardware last you. And the other thing is to compare this to any other hobby that you might get into. I always, and I sound redundant, but I'll use my previous hobbies, but golf or cycling. And, you know, in golf, it's just obscene, the cost of being a hobbyist in the sport of golf, between just tees and balls, the replaceable items, or the fact that every day you're taunted by the concept of a new club that might make you better. Just like we are with wheels. Honestly, a direct drive wheel comes out and everybody's like, oh, it'll make me faster. And I don't think it will, but if you're convinced that it will, it might. Placebo effect. And then what my take is the level of enjoyment and appreciation, the immersion factor. There are other reasons not to be just that it would make you faster. So to me, hardware for our sport is actually really cheap. Even the high-end wheels is cheaper than a golf setup. I mean, if you're talking like, you know, Callaway's or something on the high-end scale. Cycling is an obscenely priced sport. I mean, a cheap, decent bike, and I used to be a bicycle mechanic, I do know what I'm talking about. A cheap, decent bike today is $600, and if you bought it for less, it's a good bike for throwing on the RV and riding around the beach and town. But if you're into cycling, $600 is like starting point. I mean starting point. And realistically, if you have a big ego and you're racing on the Tuesday night group with all the guys, you'll feel inferior on anything less than a $3,000 bike unless you're leading the pack. And there are very few guys still on a $600 bike leading the pack, I will say. Anyway, that's kind of my take. I mean, I don't think that it's that expensive. I really don't. Even if you're talking a Bodmer wheel at a couple $1,000, $3,000, divide it up. I mean, I, on average, put 40 hours a week into my sim racing effort. That's 120 hours just on a 4-week month. Someone do some quick math for me here. Where's my phone? So I take $3,000, obscene pricing. And I should be able to do this in my head, but I'm not thinking math right now. And that basically comes down to $25 an hour, which is certainly steep, but that's just 1 month of usage. I mean, what if I just divided that across 2 months? And I'm talking about something that might last me 10 years, to be honest with you. But $3,000 divided by 240, well, I could do that one in my head. That's 12 and a half. So, you know, you're talking about very inexpensive. I mean, compare that to other things. Playing golf on a low end, a golf course round at a public course might cost you $25. And on not even a high end, just a high end public-ish course, one you can just make just call up and make a reservation. You're talking $125, $150 for 3 to 5 hours of entertainment. So do the math on that. It's a little more than $12.50 an hour, that's for sure. And it's done the minute it's over. Even if you hit a hole in one, unless someone took a picture, it's over the minute it's over. So, you know, I think other weird, I mean, let's just think of something like that I've never even done in my life. But let's just say you wanted to get really into sculpture. It sounds really inexpensive, but clay isn't that expensive. A kiln is expensive. You know, a lot of those little supplies as you're learning and wasting things are expensive. So again, I'm getting way off topic here. In a hobbyist level, I don't even, if people are complaining about sim racing costs, then my guess is they are either very young and don't know the cost of other things that they do, or, you know, if you just don't have the money, you don't have the money. I'm not going to argue that potential. You know, but, you know, if you have a decent job, you can afford all of this stuff if this is your number one main hobby. Anyway, I'm sorry. Yeah, and if you get into real racing, I don't want to give you the number. I did 18 months of go-kart racing in a Vortec 125cc, an ICC Tony kart. And if anybody knows karting, you have an idea how much it cost me to do one season of competitive, 6 months of training and one season of racing at the highest level, like Stars of Tomorrow level racing, but, you know, obviously not on a national level. and it's obscene how many zeros are on the end. Obscene. Down payment on a house, obscene. So, yeah, and right now, this whole race today, or this driving, I've been using a Fanatec CSL Elite wheelbase with their, Elite P1 rim, which is still only $150 wheel rim. This is not a super expensive package. I'm on Fanatec 2.5 pedals, and I will excuse some of my driving very, very slightly because, keep in mind, last week I was on a Bodner wheel with Ricmotech pedals, the hydraulic. So I do change my gear a lot, and they are all different, and they all feel different even though they have the same goal in mind, and they all do it well. I am to the point now where I'm getting hungry, and I'm actually getting a little exhausted, and I've made some big leaps. I would not say we're finished at all. I need to save my setup. If you have been here on the broadcast and you did want this setup, I have no problem sharing it. We all built it. It's not a great setup yet, but it's a really good setup. I'm pretty confident. I'm going to be happy to race it tonight compared to last night. So if you'd like a copy, you can... I just wanted to make sure I did save it because I messed that up. If you want to copy this setup, I'd be more than willing to share it with you. Just send me an email at Sean, SHAUN, @thesimpit.com, and I'll fire it over to you. I don't have anywhere I can think of to easily upload and link it. So if you want it and you're here watching the broadcast, email me and I will send you this setup. And please join us tonight, 6 o'clock. I mean, that's coming up in just 6 hours. It's 12 o'clock now, my time. In 6 hours, we'll be doing that race. So it'll be 20 minutes. It's very easy. Join Sim Racing System. Go to simracingsystem.com. Register for an account. You'll get a thing in the email to confirm your email. And then you can download the app, install the app into Assetto Corsa, fire up Assetto Corsa, go into the General tab for settings, and go all the way to the bottom on the General tab under UI and turn on Sim Racing System. When you do that, you'll get an icon on the main menu under the steering wheel and above the trophy that says SRS Sim Racing System, and you can join any of the series, not just mine tonight at 6 o'clock. There are a lot of great series, and they're getting bigger and bigger. So get in on the fun. Really nice matchmaking system, which is great because it's something Assetto Corsa kind of needed for make it easy to just find racing any day. And they between Assetto Corsa and Sim Racing System, that's exactly what they've provided. So thank you, Hazard. I appreciate that very much. And I already have another interview in the works. And when I first started testing the live show, that was one of the original reasons I wanted to move that direction. So I've done a bunch of driving videos to kind of test things, and that was all really leading up to today's interview and being able to use it for that type of thing. So we'll continue with interviews, we'll continue with live streams of races, we'll continue with live shows like this on tutorials and things that maybe will help you be faster or get you around the sims better. And then beyond that, that's just the live show aspect. I am still continuing with everything else. So we have a couple of reviews in the works right now and some more formal projects with the normal camera work, lighting, and editing that you're accustomed to from the Simpit. So again, all this live stuff has been fun. It's been great. We're going to continue it. And hopefully we're going to find that right balance between all the types of shows that we can get you and give you as broad a spectrum as possible. That's what we really want to try to do here. So, thank you all. Yeah, thank you all for joining the stream. Thank you for the input. I know we could go further with this, but, I'm pouring in sweat. We've been on the air for an hour and a half. I did do another stream earlier. We are doing another stream later. So, I definitely got to get off the air and get some rest in. Also, I'll at some point lose my voice if I keep talking this long. So, again, thank you for joining. Thank you for the input. Thank you for the great conversation. If you want the setup, email me. If you have any suggestions for the show or future shows, please, again, email me, Sean, SHAUN, @thesimpit.com, and I'll be sure to add them to the list, answer your question, or send you the setup, any of the above. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. Help us grow. Tell a friend. help us grow. And the more we grow, even more great content we can provide. So that's our goal as well. Again, hope you enjoyed this show. Join us for the race tonight at 6 hours from now. 5 hours, 52 minutes from now, we'll be live for the race stream. I would rather you joined with us, but if you can't race with us, please join us for the stream and at least watch, and I'd appreciate that as well. This is the Simpit. I'm Sean Cole, and I'll see you on the track. Oh, that's my clunky ending, by the way.